All right, I've got 4:30. Let's go ahead and call to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilor Foster,
Here.
Councilor Moore, Councilor Oropesa.
Here.
Okay,
Sorry.
yeah, she's present. Councilor Best
Here.
and Councilor Oropesa.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, so I'll call to order the 4:30 General Services Committee for the City of Roswell. It's June 24th. Could I get a approval of the agenda and approval of the minutes of the May 27th meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes of May 27th, 2020, and the agenda for today.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. It passes. All right, so the next thing we have up is a review of approval of the Sports Association cost recovery. And I'll let,
All right.
I don't know who's going to start, Mr. Neb,
I'm going
or-
to start,
okay.
yes.
All right, thanks.
And I'm going to lay out this. So, Mr. Chair, city councilors, all right. This is a product of information that we had started putting together over a year ago. At General Services at that point in time, Councilor Sanchez was in charge of as the chair of General Services, and we invited in all of the leagues into a conversation with the city to talk about the MOUs, to talk about some form of cost recovery at that time, because right now we have a rule that says that it's $5 per participant that we pay, that each group pays into it. Well, at that point in time, some of the leagues there were saying, well, you know, we invest a lot of our time, our sweat equity into into the fields and everything. Can we be recognized for that sweat equity? And at that point in time, we didn't have any idea of how to even recognize the sweat equity. We couldn't understand, and nobody could remember exactly why we charged $5 per head per participant for each one of the leagues. And so there was all this confusion about that, where it was at. So what we did is, when we came out of that meeting, because there was no action taken with that other than the conversation of trying to make things a little bit better and trying to make it a little more fair and equitable for all the leagues, so that they know exactly what is happening, because you know, there was a concern from some of the leagues that some of the leagues were able to receive more capital improvements than other ones. Some of them had to go and do all their fundraisers on their own. And the idea was to try to even it up. Well, the question comes back to, though, is that what does it cost the city to provide the service first? So what is this asset that we have that are sports fields? And then the second part is that, should we not be maintaining them at a standard so that we treat all these associations, these important associations, equally within that process? Because we want our kids, we want our adults to have a good place to play, good place to operate. And so what we did for the last year, Mr. Gallegos, as being the responsible party for managing these sports associations within the realm of this whole part, he brought in his staff. We had Mr. Burris bring in his staff, and we coordinated together and said, let's put together what is this asset that we have, and let's put together a cost of, if we were to maintain it at a high level of standard of operation, what would it cost us to keep it there? Because we were doing it different. It was based upon what the association needed at that time, and there was all this confusion with it. And so the whole idea was, let's package this thing together and bring it forward. Throw into it that we are talking about within this budget cycle cost recovery and such, and trying to figure that out there. But within that budgetary document, we have already said, we've stated within that document that youth activities are a primary purpose for the city. We want to make sure that our youth are very well taken care of. And I use the adage today, or the analogy, that we go from youth to adults and then all the way back over to our seniors. So we have these bookmarks on either end of these classes of individuals that we try to do a little bit more for different reasons within that. But in this case, most of these fields were youths. And now throw into it the Koch field or the Joe Bauman field, and we have a different relationship there. Right now, we have no agreement with the Roswell High for the use of that field, but you can see that they utilize that field as well as the Roswell Invaders. And so as you look at this information and you walk through that, and I'll let Mr. Gallegos go through there, but I wanted to provide that background because he wasn't here when we talked about it at General Services, trying to say, what is this asset that we have? What is it worth, and then how can we work closer with the leagues? And so the intent of this information was to get it to you so that we can now figure out, okay, well, what do we do with this information is this next step. There is no action that you have to take today. It is really, we wanted to get this information that took us a year to compile. We wanted to get it into your hands so that you can help us figure out where do you want to take that next step. That's why it's on as an action item. There is no need for an action if you don't wish to take an action today, because it's a lot of information as well too. I don't know if anybody really knew that we spend $550,000 on those fields. Now, what this information doesn't say is who's doing the work right now. In order to keep everything equivalent, we said if we were to do all of this work, so the mowing and everything, because we have some leagues out there that do a very good job mowing their own fields, they stripe them and everything else. But if we were to do all of that work ourselves, this is the cost of that service. And what we're doing is we're building it up that if these leagues are going to take on those responsibilities, we don't need to recover any cost for it because the leagues are taking care of that themselves. And so the whole idea, though, was to get a very clear picture with that. I'll ask Mr. Gallegos he can replace me over here, and we can walk through the information. I think we have 3 or 4 slides, and so we'll go from there and then answer any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Council, thank you for listening to us. Again, we're going back to what Joe was just explaining, how we walked through this whole thing. The first part was compiling all the information. That was no easy task by any means for our staff. I mean, we had to take in all the accounts of how much time it takes to mow, the gas to put in those mowers, the maintenance on those mowers, aeration, watering, how much water goes in, electricity, seed, clay, fertilizer, sprinkler and irrigation inspection, repairs, replacements. I mean, there just goes a lot of time, energy, and effort that goes into maintaining the fields the way they are right now. So again, it took us this whole year to compile all this information, really extrapolate what we needed out of it, and put it out to what you see before you today. Each field is different, and we wanted to assign a value for each field so that we could work with the associations individually, what it costs for that particular field, and say, this is what we need to come to an agreement on. Our staff also reviewed all the conditions of the parks, such as bleachers, lighting, fencing, and gave recommendations whether they were good, bad, not there at all, needed, if we need to add lighting, if things needed replacement. So all that was taken into account, and we'll get to that slide here in a minute. But at the end of the day, we were really astounded that this kind of cost rolls over $500,000. We were all kind of shocked at that number, and I'm sure everybody else, in those rooms and all the other associations, when they first installed this stuff, was, whoa, what are you talking about? We were as well. So, we're trying to break it down so everybody understands exactly where we're going with this. So we broke the cost down into annual monthly cost per acreage, per participant, just some different areas so you can see exactly how much it costs, per acre, per participant. And then we broke it down a little bit even further, looking down at a cost recovery standpoint of what would the league or would need to, either in sweat equity or in cash, need for a 50-50 cost recovery or even a 30-70 cost recovery, because we have adult leagues as well. And so we broke that down a little bit. So we're not here saying I need a check from these leagues for $12,000, $13,000, $30,000. That's not what we're here saying today at all. So I want to put everybody's mind at ease, because we know some of those leagues are out there, they do the mowing. They might take care of some other things that we're not having to take care of. So that would be that sweat equity that would go towards fulfilling that cost recovery on our end. So if they do all the mowing, that would take care of their sweat equity right there. We're not going to ask for any cash. But there's standards, and we need to make sure those standards that are met, that our fields are taken care of correctly, that they're mowed on, the right height, and right scheduling, that they're not putting mowers on there that are too heavy when it's too wet or anything like that that's damaging the field. So those are things we'll have to work with the leagues on to make sure they, do it to our standards. But that's part of it. And then we acknowledge that, like Cielo Grande is a good example of that field in particular is not used just for soccer. A lot of people run around on that soccer on that field during the day. There's leagues that other people that do things. We have Hike It and Spike It on there. We have concerts. We have, all these different things that go on those fields. So they shouldn't be solely responsible for all of Cielo Grande just because they use it so many times. So we understand those, and we can work with the associations individually on these particular items. So what all this does is it gives us, all this information allows us to negotiate with each league and what they put as far as sweat equity and basically help pay down their obligation to the city. On the next slide, I have it here, sorry.
Just that right arrow should work. Or did, anyway.
I don't know how we're.
Okay, Vanna.
Yeah.
Slide, please.
Okay. On this next slide, as you look at it, I broke it down a couple of different ways and gave a couple of different options. And again, like Joe said, you don't have to take action today, but these are some ideas out there on how to look at this. If we took those numbers, and I'll give you an example how we came to these numbers here in a second, but if we took a 30/70 cost approach on the recovery of costs for all these different sports associations, our youth sports associations, it's telling you annually what they would be obligated in some way to give back to the city, whether, again, it be through sweat equity, cash, things like that. I have two options. Each sports association can bear their individual costs for their field, whatever it is, and we work with them individually on it, or you, as the council, can decide, no, let's lump them all together and everybody pays the same. Those are just options. Again, something to think about. What you're going to do is ultimately up to you. How we came up to these numbers, so on the 30/70 cost approach, I gave New and Op as an example. Their total annual cost, based on the number of months they're there, is $61,242, or $5,000 a month. That $5,000 a month, I'm sorry, that $61,000 was annual. The $5,000 a month times 8 months they use the field, because they have a spring season and fall season, equals the $20,414. And a 30% cost recovery would be $12,248. So that's how we came to that number. A 50/50 cost recovery example for the Wool Bowl for the men's softball, same kind of deal. They're about $6,100 a month. They operate about 5 months a year. They're at $15,000, and at 50%, that didn't come out right. Apologize. That's a typo I see there. Anyways,
I think your number is fine at the end. It's the.
Yeah, it's my middle
the
number
math
there.
right
That's
there.
my middle number.
After you take the cost recovery of 50%, I believe the 15,000 is
Yes,
accurate.
Yeah, I apologize, it's a typo. So that's how we came up to that. This last slide, again, we go back to what do these leagues need? There's a lot of repairs, a lot of maintenance that needs to go on. There's a lot of areas that are dilapidated, need to be repaired or replaced. And so our staff went through all of these different areas, and they rated them based on their best opinion, whether things were good, bad, need to be replaced, or did not exist at all and were needed for the facility. So this just gives a breakdown on each field, and I apologize, the field's in print out on that top part. But I can get that to you, and that's,
It is in your package,
It is,
but
yes,
it has all the fields listed across that top column or
Yes.
that top line.
it is in the packet, so you can see each field, exactly what it's for.
So the whole concept with this is that we wanted to pull all this information together. And I can remember back 2 years ago at one of the city council retreats. Every one of our city councilors said at that point in time that sports, amateur athletics is important to, it's a source of tourism that we have not utilized to our advantage. And so the idea of it is to start with exactly what we have. Start with our leagues, start with our own kids and everything, all the people that play the sports. But we also want to make sure that we have quality infrastructure that everybody gets to utilize. And it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, we don't have enough money to take care of everything at one point in time. But even like this list of where do we need bleachers, where do we need lighting, where do we need signage, all of that stuff, we now at least have a step-off point that we can work with the league saying, okay, how are we going to tackle this piece? Right now, staff is putting together estimated costs for each one of these capital items as well, because we really need to know what is that investment going to look like for each one of those fields and what we're trying to accomplish. But we also believe that, you know, we don't want to hold the leagues responsible for anything outside of their season either. But that's our opportunity to bring in these other things as well too, to help with that, and that's where the city wants to help. And I think that's where walking all the way through this and recognizing all that sweat equity of these leagues, of what they're putting in there, we just had no way, at least until now, to quantify what that work was. Because every one of the leagues does something out there on them to make that activity go better. And we have different relationships all the way through there. Throw on top of it the increasing traveling teams that are happening as well too. They should play a role within this, not just the leagues, but it should be these traveling teams as well. We love having everybody out there. We love everybody utilizing the fields. We just did not know what the level is that we were supposed to be at. And I think now, you know, we had on the ICIP some additional ball fields out there as well, because everybody's feeling the tightness of the space that we have. I think we can now move forward better because having a good list of what we have as well. And so we stand for any questions. I think that was the last slide. So.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that I didn't see on the list is tennis. And of course, they haven't really come to the city for a lot of assistance. And the other one is a flag football. And I think we had a women's football league as well.
I'm not aware of a women's football league, but I know the flag football league, and from what I understand is we've been trying to put flag football where we can fit them during the summer. So they've moved several spots over the years. They don't have a dedicated field for them right now. I believe last year they had them at Brenham, and we just put them over there. And we don't know what their plans were this year. We didn't know where we're going to put them yet.
My understanding that they were using Styles Field.
They might have used Styles at one time.
Okay.
But yeah, they have been moved around over the years, though.
And so I think because we weren't able to get them a home, I think that's why we've ended up with not having them listed there. I think the tennis courts are a good one. We don't have a relationship with the association right now. But I think the intent, I think this information would blend the same way with that, and I think we should incorporate that into this whole mix.
What's that new, like tennis, the one they use the tennis courts?
Pickleball?
Pickleball, yeah.
As well, because I know we have individuals that are interested in that.
Yeah, and I think that's what Marcus is working on at Recreation, is trying to
Right.
figure out how to manage the pickleball, because that is a growing and expanding sport right now.
It is growing, and when the interest is there, we can actually help them more, you know.
And I believe we did have a women's football league, but I believe they used Bremen. And since that's it is our property, but I think it's an agreement with the schools, since the schools has that.
Yeah, the schools
Yeah.
actually has the.
Deed, not deed, but the.
Yeah, they
Right.
have the rights over it right now.
Yeah, the city owns the Wool Bowl and the city owns the Bremen. We have relationships with the school district for the management of those areas as well too. We only step in and utilize them only so often, so that relationship's a little bit different.
Have we gotten the gross receipts tax report yet?
Yeah, I believe that the number has come in and they're trying to confirm that now as to where that's at. Is that correct, Mr. Fuentes?
And
Yeah.
did we take a big hit like we anticipated?
It does not appear so. No, it looks like it was actually a good month, right at 2.7 million.
And-
So we're trying to figure out, making sure that of why it worked differently than what the anticipated thing was. So
I appreciate that, but
Thank you.
let's,
Home improvement.
we can, that's not on our agenda, so I'm not sure we're
yes,
allowed
sir.
to.
Okay.
Information that we needed to know, true, but, do you have any questions?
No, the pickleball folks, they play every morning about 6:37 over there at the tennis courts.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
the
we-
lines are painted there on some of the courts, and, yeah, the courts need a little bit of work, and they do need some repair, but yeah, they're suitable for them.
Yeah, and I think most of the properties that we have listed here are, other than Cielo Grande, because that's the only different one there, are essentially locked. They're only utilized during those seasons by those entities. So the tennis courts, because we don't have a relation with the association or the pickleball groups, they are as come as there's availability
Right.
for that.
And
And I
the-
think that's the difference between these things. We're happy to enter into an agreement with them as well too, because I know the tennis association would love to see some improvements done on those tennis courts as well.
Cool. If no other questions, we do have three gentlemen that wanted to speak on this matter, so.
We'll move out of the way so that the social distance.
Yeah.
That's good about the grocery receipts tax, but, you know,
I think next month it'll go down.
I think our,
I think it's going to be a month, yeah.
all right. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
My name's James Edwards. My address is 208 South Stanton, Roswell, New Mexico, 88203.
All right. What do you have for us?
Well, I'm here to talk about the report that we got. I guess I received it about a day before yesterday from one of my board members, and we had some concerns because if you read the information, it goes back and forth. The price changes by leagues, and I want to go back to that meeting that we had that Mr. Nebb was talking about earlier, and I was at that meeting, and there were two other counselors that are no longer on this committee, and part of the issue was there were leagues that were paying their fees, and there were leagues that hadn't paid their fees. We are one of those leagues that have paid our fee, and I know most of you counselors that are here today, and y'all all had kids that have participated in Roswell Youth Football League or either baseball. And I also sit on Parks and Rec Commission. Initially, the fee was $3. I believe it was like $3.75 way back. And we decided to raise the fee to $5. And that was per league. And there was a meeting held over at the Parks and Recreation. It's been probably about 2.5 years ago. So we voted to raise the fee to $5 per kid, which is the usage fee. So that's where the $5 came from. We've always paid that. And we've also actually kicked in extra money when it was needed. We used to write a check for $2,000 for grass seed. Plenty of times we've done that because football is a different game. But I'm here to advocate for all of the kids in Chaves County and in Roswell, but Chaves County particularly. Because without these leagues, What do we have? And I know that I've heard people say you need to run it like a business, and I understand that. Because we've tried to run ours like a business. But our as part of running our league as a business, we don't make a profit. We actually lose. But fortunate for us, we have a good board. And we've put a lot of time and effort out there. And the sweat equity, where I used to work at, it was called in-kind. It's called an in-kind donation. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't have football, you don't have baseball, you don't have soccer, what are we going to do with these kids? And what are we going to do for quality of life? Because my phone rings off the hook from people calling from Washington, from Texas, different parts of the country, wanting to relocate here because they say, hey, you have a football league. I believe we're one of, I believe there's only 4 leagues in the state of New Mexico that actually play football. And we're fortunate to have, if I'm not mistaken, if we're not the first largest, we're the second largest football league in the state. The cost to absorb, the way it was, the paperwork was sent out was, it can be misinterpreted. And I know that we interpreted it one way, because there's 2 different scales on there. There's one with $32 and there's one with for us it was $9.71, which is still a lot of money to add on to our cost. But we've absorbed those costs in the past when we raised our fee from $85 to $90, because we want kids to participate. Like I said, every one of y'all probably had a kid that has participated in our leagues. And from what I gather, the leagues have been successful here. The city supports us, and without that support, you're not going to have leagues. And if you raise it to the price, the price too high, you're going to kill your leagues. And that's what has happened over in Hobbs. Hobbs has 2 teams, and they have to look to go play somewhere else. And when we talk about cost recovery, heck, we better look at everything. I mean everything. And that's including basketball at the little center down here, because that's going to be another $32 that those people are going to have to pay based upon cost recovery. We're here to say, give us a chance to process this, and I don't believe that you should take any action on this. Because think about what we're doing to these kids. And I've seen a lot of these kids come through the leagues. And I'll use Miss Jeannie Beth Korn. Her son Jasper played in our league. And I think it made him a better person, but he also played baseball. He's very well-rounded. And we didn't always agree. We agreed to disagree, but we moved on. And I would like to ask that question. For a person that has 5 kids to pay $132, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I don't care if you live on the north side or you live on the east side or the west side, south side. People will not be able to afford that, because right now there's a numbers crunch. And I'm here to ask that you table it or take no action on these items. And I think that the leagues need to have a seat at the table when we're putting these numbers together, because we are from Roswell. I'm from Roswell through and through. And that's pretty much my spiel.
All right, thank you, Mr. Edwards.
And I thank you for your time, and I hope you make the right decisions.
Hello. Josh Torres, 106 Newell Drive, Roswell, New Mexico, 88203. I also read the reports from the standpoint that this is what was going to effectively happen, and that was where my concern came from. So I'm not as bright as Mr. Edwards. I couldn't remember everything, so I had to write it down. Like I said, my name is Josh Torres, and I'm here with interest in this particular meeting because of my involvement in youth sports over the last 20 years. Not only a coach, a board member, but actually a participant under James Edwards' tutelage, actually. So He's been involved for quite a few years, in case I needed to point that out. But I've myself invested 20 years of which were super awesome. I'm currently on the board of directors for the RYFL and vice president of Lions Hondo Little League. As you know, involvement with youth programs is completely voluntary. I love what I do to help with youth sports here in Roswell, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I am, however, concerned with the turn of events pertaining to the general services reports that I've recently read about each facility and the annual costs associated with facilitating the youth sports seasons. I feel like the proposal of charging each participant an additional fee would only hinder our push to recruit more of Roswell's youth to participate. As it stands now, the organizations that I work closest with have a policy that no registrant is turned away due to the inability to afford the costs associated. We don't tell a kid or a family that they can't bring their kids to play sports because they can't afford it. We never do that, and we never will. It'll continue to be our policy. So the leagues absorb those costs, which I think is only right to ensure equal opportunities for all kids in Roswell. Don't get me wrong, I know that there are costs involved with everything in life, including the use of the city's facilities, and I am not going to stand here or sit here and act like anything is free in this world. I know better than that. However, I do feel as though allowing the leagues a reasonable amount of time to process and problem solve our way through these issues is not too much to ask. I would also like to request that when assessments do happen at facilities, those volunteers like myself that put a lot of work into these fields know them best. I know those fields better than anybody in this city. And I'd like to possibly be contacted to participate in those assessments because I think my information that I have to pass on would be valuable. And with that, that's my request of you guys is to maybe consider allowing us time to act on this and bring it to our boards and come up with some ways that we can work to mitigate some of these costs if that's what we need to do. But in closing, I really want to thank you guys for your time. I want to thank you guys for what you do, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you very much.
Now, Josh, if you'd have taken your hat off, I'd have recognized you.
I was like, I didn't realize until you sat down that it was you. My name is Stephen Lobo Rodriguez. I'm 614 East La Paloma Lane, Roswell, New Mexico, 88201. And I am the treasurer of the RYFL. And I've seen our numbers. I've seen everything that comes in, comes out. I mean, it's hard to keep a budget, especially for us when we don't make money. You know, a lot of people think you charge $100 or $80 and you think, well, the league's got a lot of money. We don't. I mean, the cost of equipment itself, I can tell you we spent about almost $12,000 just in the last 3 years for those helmets and those shoulder pads. The things that we do, the time that with the efforts we have, I mean, it's just hard sometimes. I mean, if Juan's seen our budget, he's been our treasurer before, and I mean it's not easy. And what Josh said, you know, we don't turn a kid away. I mean, if they can't afford it, we'll find ways for them to play. Even if they don't pay, we let them play anyways. Or we have board members or people in the community that will pay for them. I mean, it's not easy to keep a budget, especially, you know, what we have. You know, the kids, yeah, we're the second biggest league in this state, but there's only 4 in the state. Artesia doesn't even have one. You know, and they call us sometimes asking us, can we come play with y'all? You know, and we don't charge them. We sometimes, hey, bring this or bring that or bring your own equipment. That's all we ask. So we're just, as a team, we're asking that you just put it to rest or put it on the table or do what you need to do. I mean, it's the kids that it's all about. It's not about, you know, how they do things or what they do. You know, as a parent, I've got 3. You know, if everything goes up and I have to pay that amount of money, my kids won't even be able to play. You know, it's not easy. As a parent and myself, it's not easy to do it, you know? Just look at my son when he first started. I mean, he was excited to play. You know, we got the chance to pay for him to play, but, you know, there's sometimes I have to tell him no about some stuff or stuff like that. I mean, it's not easy, especially trying to keep them entertained through all this stuff that we're going through right now. I mean, that's the hard thing. And if we go up on this thing, if we demolish all these sports, you know, what future do they have? You know, what future does my 1-year-old have? You know, when she don't get to play softball when she gets older. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, me myself being 41 years old, still playing men's softball, but hoping that I don't get hurt out there. You know, it's not easy. So we're just asking, you know, just give us a chance. Give us a chance to figure this out and let us do what we need to do. So that's all I got to say.
All right. Thank you. Oh,
Mr. Chair, we do.
we have one online? Okay.
Hi, my name's Steve Dodson. Address is 18 North Sky Loop. And just want to start off by saying, Joe and Marcus, really neat stuff. This is really intriguing. Look, I had misread the original report, and so I'm glad that you took the time to kind of explain what you had gone through. And so having looked at it from the correct perspective, I think it's neat what you're doing. Like some of the others have said, we would actually like to be a part of any final numbers. And I think that, you know, I think we've got a good handle now on how you guys are doing this. One little typo I did notice, we had 344, I think, listed on our, for Noon Optimist Little League. That's who I'm speaking on behalf of today. We actually had 444, so that would change the numbers a little bit, getting a different divisor in there. But you know, the COVID kind of hit us pretty good too. We're going to lose, I don't know, probably $5,000 this year on our season that we're kind of trying to push to play, and that's assuming we get a chance to play. So, you know, we're going to be in a little bit of a budget tightening mode for sure next year. But just want to say, if we could just get a seat at the table, I think we'd be happy to work with you guys, because we understand the predicament that the city's in, and we just want to be a good partner. The city's been a good partner to us all these years. So let us know how we can help, and we look forward to getting to work.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Mr.
And Mr. Chair, if I could answer just one, because I know it came up a few times from everybody about having a seat at the table. The intent was not to exclude them from the table. The way I operate is I want to make sure that the city council sees the information first so that you can help direct the traffic. In order to make this work, the leagues and the city have to be together at the table. I think that as we talk about the number of kids that are using that and everything, you know, we have 12,000 children, at least from the last census, under the age of 18. We have 2,400 people showing up there. We have a lot of capacity that we can reach out for more, because sports is important, as well as arts and culture, and all of this, all those things are all important. We're just trying to reach that niche of what those individuals are. But I want to make sure that you understand and our leagues understand, the intent was to not cut them out of the conversation. The intent was to share this information with you so that we could go into those next steps. All right.
Go ahead.
Just to be clear, if we don't take any action today, and I hope we don't, the fees are going to remain as they are right now, right? $5 per player? Or
Correct.
whatever the fees are right now, and plus whatever else.
That's the council approved fees right now.
Okay, so they will remain as is?
They remain where they're at until you change them. And now we are not able to recognize, and I think that was even talking with the Football League, we're unable to recognize sweat equity or the in-kind services or cutting a check to the city. We don't have a mechanism to really recognize that either. And so just be aware of those trade-offs as well.
Okay, thank you.
Could I say something?
Go ahead, Ms. Moore.
I guess, the kids are, where my heart is, that, Council Foster, because that's where I am. So I have a little trouble with this only because, and the way I read, I'm kind of like the other Mr. Dawson, because I think I read through it a different way, but the numbers seem as astronomical when I was reading it. Still think the increases a little, would be way too much, especially if you have a family that plays, like Trail did, every sport that came out, like Don Trail did, every sport. So if you think if you rate every sport $30, $40, $100, then, there's no way that we can have kids that play multi-leagues because you can't afford it. And I would agree, let's table this. I don't, I know because of what's going on with the ground that we're going to need to do a little bit of raising or something. And I understand, this, I get this word from Miss Jean, Miss Counselor Best, we got to make sure they got a shirt in the game or skin in the game, that's her words, to make sure that all the teams know that they got to have skin in the game no matter how this is rolled out. We know that there's going to have to be some changes, some kind of, raising of the, somehow, we know that, just based on what's going on in our world today, but the kids are most important to me. If we have to eat it somewhere else, I feel like we need to eat it someplace else. Eat the cost someplace else. If wherever else we can do it. But I just at this time I don't think we want to vote on this. I don't think we should table this. I guess maybe some crunching numbers because some numbers still seem high to me. But I don't go out there and cut the grass, so I'm not sure how much that costs. But some of the numbers just seem really high. For the maintaining of those fields. So I'm like, really? It cost $30,000 like 2 or 3 times a year. And so, so maybe some of those numbers, maybe we look at some of those numbers things, because they just seemed a little high to me. So, and I guess if it's by the acres, by the field, I understand the difference, the different fields and the different uses, but at the same time, if you have Styles Field, they're just using those 2 corners. But if you're measuring, are you measuring the whole block, all the outside of the field, parking lot, and all of that? When you're measuring the lot, the acreage, or whatever y'all call it, acres, whatever that number was. But are you measuring all that, or are you just measuring the piece of field that they use to play the game? You know what I mean? So they're paying for all outside, everywhere, gravel, street, all that kind of thing. But we're measuring everything inside the field and outside the field. So I just kind of think those numbers just seem a little high. So I'm kind of with Councilor Pesa and the people that have spoken that if we can just table this, get a better grasp on it. And I understand it's just for the numbers. I understand that Mr. Ned, that is just to give us something to start with and look at and get everybody to see, start talking, making sure that we're on the same page. And I thank you for those numbers. I thank you, Marcus, for, y'all taking, all your time out to get these done. We appreciate those, having the tables to look at and stuff is really valuable for me. So, because I don't like to read all that stuff. So the tables make it much easier for me to understand. So I appreciate that. And like I said, I think we should not have any action on this today.
All right, thank you, Ms. Moore. And go ahead.
I see this as a baby step to many steps at this point. I see this as we got the numbers out there. We all need to study them. We all need to understand them. We all get together and communicate. Bring in all of our teams because that's something we need to do because they are the ones putting the sweat equity out there. I agree, if we don't have this for our children, I'm more apt to work with this than I am the museum. I hate to say it. I hate to say it because in the museum, the adults can survive. In this, the children can't. I prefer to see a lot more voluntary parents not kick their kids out at the ballpark and walk away. We've seen that time and time again. I don't know how that could be rounded up. That's probably the league's issue, but that sweat equity, you have the same dads mowing the same field over and over again. Been there, seen it, done it. But what we get in return with our children, and Mr. Edwards seen it, and believe me, we haven't seen eye to eye. We've had quite a few letters sent back and forth, so we know, but what in turn we give our kids with this is something that no one can give them. No participation trophies in my world because we see what those turn out to be, but real trophies, pats on the back, thank you. I agree with setting this aside, gathering everybody at the table and going from there.
All right, and one of the things that having it as an action item is that at least it allows us to tell direction to the staff. And that's where, I may be wrong, but I'm still seeing this as maybe 2 years' worth of work. But this allows us to, when we come to the table with MOUs, to look and get them more uniform and to work with them specifically because we have numbers. And also, the numbers may be a little bit different, and when we were working with each league, we can get those numbers to that.
Right.
And so, yes, it's a great thing, and I don't mind having it as an action item, but I know it scares, and it scared a lot, and that we were going to make a statement like this, because I couldn't see when I first saw this, I knew for sure we weren't enacting it right away, because I'm not going to, as a counselor, charge kids $170 to play a sport if we can keep from it. Yes, Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I got to admit, when I saw the agenda and all the numbers and so forth, I actually misunderstood it. And you know, the numbers are scary if you're in the league. You know, whatever league you're in, they are scary because right now they're paying the $5 per kid plus usage of the fields and what have you. But when we go back and bring everybody to the table, I just want to make sure that the people understand whatever cost it is, and I don't support the 30-70, 50-50 recovery. I'll tell you that up front, because the way I see it is this is an investment in our kids for our future. And so if we cut out some sports for whatever reason, you know, we're doing a great disservice to our community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I agree with you. I think I support the concepts of the splits to show a priority, but to me, kids are 100% priority. And so, and I'm understanding there's going to be some cost absorption by leagues, but they're still the number one reason why. Well, if you know me, kids are number one because that's what I spent my life doing. And so, I like having this because I like having numbers rather than not having information. And so being able to start, this is a great start. I'm not sure right now if you're wanting any direction because I like the start, but I see that, like I said before, when we start doing MOUs, now we have some information to start at and start working with.
I'll walk you through where I would like to see the next steps with this as well too. And I wanted to really press on one thing there, because as we look at these numbers, those numbers can adjust a little bit. But do you know we spend $200,000 on sprinkler repairs every year on all those fields? And if we would never have found that except when we put this information together. And it's because each one of those heads are $150 a piece and everything. And so knowing that, we can now get with the leagues and say, what can we do differently? Because we have kids that are kicking the heads. We have breakage and everything. How can we fix that together? Look, and I look at every one of our departments in museum, golf course, zoo, all of these sports fields. It's not a cost, and I know we get down to the numbers, and I talk a lot about numbers, but it's not a cost, it's an investment into the community, just like you're all saying. It's how do we break up that investment and everything, and that's what I think this information is doing, because this investment of this leg as well too, just like the museum and everything else, all of them are important to some part of our population. And I think that we need to make sure that when they're out there utilizing those fields, the coaches are quality, the associations are quality. Our fields have to match up to that high level of quality as well. And I think that's the one thing there. So what I would like to do, and I don't like the word table for this, what I would like to say is to take no action on it and allow us to take to the next step, and that is to bring in all the leagues together, and we'll walk through the information as well, just like we have with you today. We'll walk all the way through the information. And we'll start to discover exactly what this relationship should have always been. And we get stuck in our own little pieces, and so I think that's where I would like to say, if you're acceptable to that, what we can do is we'll take no action on this item. We'll invite in the leagues. I would like to have some city councilors there as well, not just staff in the leagues. I want everybody at that table so that as we walk through this thing, we walk through it together. If that's acceptable.
Acceptable.
Good for me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe, would it be possible to have a General Services Committee workshop
Yes, sir.
and bring in all the leagues? And that way we can give them enough time to vent and give their opinions and what have you.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, is to set a general session, a special session of general services. We'll just set a different night for this together, and we'll just all sit there around. The room's available for that as well, too. So if that's how you would like to walk through this, we're happy to do that as well. It works well for us.
That's fine.
Okay, I think what I would like from the leagues to do is estimate maybe the hours they're putting in, bring that with them, estimate, and see what they want to do. We all know it has to be more than $5. We all get that, because you look at the numbers, and this is investment in our kids, as you say, so it's not going to be the $100 and something dollars. I get that, I understand that, but I want the leagues to bring their information to us so we also see where they're standing. Because right now, where they're standing is, we want to give you the $5, we go from there because we got to buy shirts, equipment, so forth and so on. Baseball, not so much, we still buy shirts, but we buy all of our own bats and all of that. But with the football, they do provide the pads and stuff. But see what their deal is and bring it with them, so when we do the workshop, we see the happy equal, and we both have a goal to work to. Thank you.
All right. Well, and the only thing I would care to say is, we really don't know. It may be less than $5, depending on how much they
It
put
might
into
be.
it. So we don't know where that number is, because they may be putting more into it and offsetting the costs. So, but that's one of those things, is sitting them down and getting to the table and finding out what it is. But
One last thing, we have a lot of travel teams in softball and baseball. And I don't know about football, there used to be one some time ago, but I would certainly say that they need to be at the table as well, or anybody that really is involved in sports.
And I think that by having this as a general service special session, that word will get out a lot better as well, too. Because I mean, the only other hard part about that, and that's why we have these MOUs with everybody, is the spread of the liability, because we don't tell the associations how to run their association. We offer them the space to do that. And I think that's where we get everybody there, even the traveling teams. I agree. I concur with that. And anybody that has an interest in making this better is what we should have at the table.
But I think that's one thing lacking that we've had in the past is the MOU, the travel teams somehow falling under the leagues without anything specific. And I think we need more specifics with our travel teams. Just because we have an MOU with a league doesn't mean that whatever offshoots that they fall under that. And I think that needs to be in that discussion too. Because that could, we say 6 months on a season, but suddenly they have a travel team, well, then that carries outside that 6 months. And so I do believe that needs to be in the discussion with each league and each travel team. So, all right, are we?
Are you good? We'll work with the chair in order to schedule a session. I would say we'll go out at least 30 days to give the leagues an opportunity to talk with their boards, to talk with their people. If Marcus gets a chance, we'll try to get some verbiage out to them so they know what we're hoping to cover in that first meeting and that agenda. And so if that's acceptable to chair and the council, then we'll take that as our
That'll work.
directive. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. Now we're on to Ranking of our capital projects for recreation, parks, cemetery, museum, golf, transit, library, and zoo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to start off the item real quick, and then we'll call each of our departments to come forward and present their one or two projects for any questions or endorsement by the committee. So last year, the staff presented to the city council and the committees a list of all of the master list of all the projects for city departments. As it was discussed last year, the intent of the exercise to allow for discussion and decision among the staff, city council, on which projects are prioritized for funding. The list is also used to develop the ICIP. It will also be used to appropriate any funds available in the final budget. And of course, in November, it will be used for the top 5 for the legislative session in 2021. So as you all know, each of the departments is separated, is assigned to each of the committees. Infrastructure met earlier this week. Public safety met last week, and both of those committees endorsed some of the projects that were presented to them. So now we have this committee today with all of those departments listed. So those are the dates for each of the committees. As mentioned, legal will be meeting tomorrow, and then we'll be taking this whole list to the city council either in July or August, as long as we have an ICIP adopted by September. So this will help us take the long list, whittle it down to a more manageable list. So with that, Mr. Chair and committee members, I will ask the library to come forward and present her list and show some additional information on her project. Yes, right.
My name's Enid Costley, and I don't think I can talk about capital improvements unless I talk
Ms.
about.
Costley, can you move the mic up just a little bit? I can hear you, but I don't know if everyone in the...
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a soft voice, but I don't think I could talk about capital improvements unless I talk about what happened on June 11th. And I brought with me a prop. This pipe broke. And this is what happened. We got water in the children's area, into the books area, flooded pretty much the whole building. The broken pipe came out of the children's bathrooms, and it spilled into the men's bathrooms, the women's bathrooms, the girls' bathrooms, into the lobby, into the front entrance, into the main entrance of the library, the circulation desks, the magazine area, the bondurant room, and all that green area is a rough estimate of where all the water went. We had about 1,000 gallons of water go down the floor vents, which pretty much saved a lot of the part of the library. So that happened on June 11th, and June 18th, they pulled the fans out, and so this is what we have right now. We have holes in our walls and paint coming out. The bathrooms are gutted, and they have been cleaned, but all the public bathrooms are gutted. They need to be replaced. Floor tile has been damaged, and I feel needs to be replaced. We don't know about the carpeting. So when we talk about the capital improvements, I asked, are the capital improvements coming out of the capital improvement funds, or is it coming out of insurance? And we feel that the bathrooms would be paid for insurance, but we haven't gotten we don't know how much the insurance will cover. So this is my wish list based on if the bathrooms get fixed with the insurance and all those things. So it's the roof of the bondurant room that is leaking. I'm pretty sure there's mold in there too, because I'm allergic to mold, and whenever it rains, I get sick whenever I go in there. So this is, the facilities department said, for building repairs, you gotta work with your foundations. You know, so the roof, you said, was the thing that I needed to deal with, so I listened to people who know things better than I do. So the roof needs repair. It's rotting, and it's rotted more than this. This was taken last year. And there you can see the water stains in there, and I've got pictures of water running down this wall, or it runs down that wall. They have done some repairs on it, and that just kind of pushed the water, you know, further into the building. And as someone said, you know, water just finds its way into every sorts of different things. So what they keep telling me is the roof needs to be repaired. The other thing is the concrete in both sides of the entrance. It's heaving. Part of it is because of the trees. Part of it is, well, for water or whatever that's going in there that's just causing it more. We did have someone trip on it, and we did have to pay the insurance cost for that. I don't want that to happen again, and it just doesn't look good. Water pools in different areas, and sometimes when it gets cold, it turns to ice. So that is my presentation.
Okay, so your two recommendations would be,
The roof would be the first one,
okay,
and then the sidewalks. And along with the sidewalks is the idea of putting in an outdoor garden, outdoor learning area. Concrete costs the most in any project, and so we're looking at taking some of that concrete, pulling it out. You have to take the roots of the trees out too, but replacing it with a learning garden. I will have to tell you that we don't have any architectural designs for it. It's pie in the sky, and that's why it's my second choice. But sometimes those two, the roof and the concrete, kind of go hand in hand.
so it's items number 1 and number 13 on
That is
this
correct.
list?
That is correct, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
all right, cool.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question
Oh
for
dear.
Juan. Did you buy, of course, this is just from experience, because I had this happen to my house. The elbows, if they're a certain brand, some of the insurance companies have collected them, and they're suing that company. Just for information, so don't throw it out till your insurance company says throw it out, because that would add to your payroll.
Okay.
So, just
Thank you.
saying. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Ms. Moore, you have a question? All right.
No, I'm just kind of sad about the way that looks, and I guess because of how we were discussing the roof before now, so I guess a little too late, but that's sad, but I don't have anything else to say, but I'm just saddened by the state of the library.
All right. I'm wondering, I mean, we've been told each department is to pull 2 things, but right now with us not knowing what our insurance would be on that, could we possibly put 3 things on this, the third being the difference in the makeup of, for whatever the insurance doesn't pay, and then that way, when we finally make our ICIP, that would be one of the third. If we don't need it, it doesn't matter, but if it's there, then come July when we're working on our ICIP, or September when we're working on our ICIP, and we know that we're going to have a shortfall in our insurance payment on that it could be one of the items.
Mr. Chair, certainly we can add it as a third item, if that's the wishes of the committee. I think that's a good idea.
All right, well, then I'm open for a motion.
Well,
Or
do
what
you
do
want to
we-
go each one and
do we
vote on
wanna
each
do?
one, or present them as a group?
I'd rather vote on each one.
Let's vote on each one, and then that way, because that way we don't have to try to think back on all of them when we have several to go over, so
Sounds
if we vote on each one, all right? Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for the review and ranking of the capital project for the library. Is that how you want it?
That'll work, sounds good.
Second.
All right. And number 1 being the repair for roof.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And number 2 being the number 13, or the outside pavement sidewalks. And the number 3 is the difference in whatever the insurance adjustment is for the recent flood. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. It passes. All right, let's move on. So we have museum next.
That is correct. We have. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Morris?
I think there was a little confusion on what the number 2 was. Actually, I think what Enid is talking about is number 3 on your list as being the number 2. It's the sidewalk with the Learning Center.
All right.
Okay, because our number 13
Number 3 would be her
says
number 2.
outside pavement, sidewalks, curbs, and gutters. So you want us to move closer to the library itself and go strictly for the library entrance and outdoor learning center.
It's those big concrete squares that I think she's talking about.
Okay.
So it's number 3 that you'd like to have as number
Okay.
2.
So we stand corrected, right?
All
Mr.
right.
Foster?
Can I get a friendly amendment or just amending the motion?
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to our library review and ranking capital project. 1 would be repair and replace leaky roof, which is item number 1 on page 6. And number 2 would be library entrance and outdoor learning area, which is item number 3 on page 6. And item number 3 would be the difference in the insurance that will not be paid by the insurance for our repair of our flooding and our koi fish swimming.
A friendly second.
All right. All right. Well, do we need to go ahead and just vote on the amendment, or it's a friendly amendment? But I think we're all understanding of that? We all, okay, then let's go ahead and move on to the museum.
Okay. Good evening. So I spoke with Juan in advance, and I actually have 3 projects here. The reason for that is the first one is the last one I had presented to General Services back in October. There was a lot of positivity around the project, and the administration had been talking about the potential for pursuing it with City Council approval this coming year or the following year. That being said, with the current economic climate, I'm making the assumption that it's something that's not affordable at this time. So I just wanted to put it out there because it had been spoken about in the past. I'm still interested in it. I still think it would be a positive thing for the community and for the museum and city. But I just don't know that it's affordable at this point. And just for those that are on the go-to meeting, it's the museum modernization or renovation, and it would be to create a family interactive gallery and to move the museum store to the front of the museum and to renovate the lobby. But however, if we move to the second page, the next 2 projects are ones that are a little bit more affordable, also are ones that have needs for the museum and the community. The first one is the reopening of the museum's WPA era stage, which I think a lot of people are familiar with the fact that the museum was built in 1937. It originally was a kind of a one-room, had 1 room as a main gallery, and that was also served as an auditorium for lectures, poets, writers, and other types of performances. And it got covered up in the 1970s. I think it was kind of a similar phase with downtown, how some of the facades were covered there that were of historical nature. The same thing happened inside the museum. So the stage is still there, it's just covered up. And so my recommendation is to see if we could potentially uncover that stage. And There's a possibility of grants being out there for this, but if it's something that the council is interested in, it wouldn't be a bad thing to discuss as a possible ICIP option as well. The third project that I have is we have 51,000 square feet, and at least 25 to 30,000 of it, our flooring is just in not terribly good shape. There are definitely some priority areas, but in particular, the auditorium, the carpet is extremely worn. It's from 1998, so whatever that is, 22 years old. The pictures don't do it justice. There's stains everywhere. No one's able to work on it anymore. There's a tear going through the middle of it. And then in several galleries, due to roof leaks over the years and just also age, the carpet is very rippled in several locations. I spoke with this, I've been speaking with facilities department about this for like the last year and a half or so. It's time to prioritize, and we can either phase in new flooring or get it done all at once, but it is something that needs to be dealt with at least the next year or so, because I do feel it's a hazard for our visitors. It also doesn't look very good. It's not very presentable, and especially for rentals, it would be a hard one as well.
All right, Ms. Best?
I would like to move number 3 to number 1. I'm all about maintenance and keeping it up. We are sure that our ceiling is not leaking anymore on any of our artwork.
There are still some ducts that need to be wrapped. So we have occasional small leaks, and we've gotten half of the museum done, but we're still looking for some money being about $8,000 to wrap the remainder of the ducts, which are like around HVAC units and such.
Correct.
So we are having a few leaks around vents. They're very minimal.
Okay. I'm all about maintenance, because as we know, our artwork is amazing. And I've known that from this big. Also, our vaults, are they up and running? Are they?
The vaults are fine. Both of them have full cement ceilings, and so we've actually never had any leaks in those. They've been very solid.
And they're all HVAC? Correct?
Yes.
Because I know everything has to be in temperatures when it comes to canvas and all that.
We have not had any issues, to my knowledge, with the vaults at all. I will say, periodically, we've been replacing HVAC units, 1 or 2 per year. We have, I believe, 26 on the roof, and so just with that many, there's a few that are still over 30 years old. I think the oldest is in our ceramic studio. But for the most part, we've gotten through last year without replacing any, just due to lack of funds and such.
So I'm almost at the point where I would like your number 3, your new flooring, and your $8,000 ducts to be worked on, and those to be number 1, and I don't know if we could put those together, because to me, that is very important before we go to another phase and spend money on all of these. It's very important to keep everything together. And I know we did our bridge. Our bridge is strong enough to hold anybody that walks across it now. And I also agree in the store somehow being moved to where people have to go in and out every time they enter and exit the museum. That's kind of a marketing type thing.
Yes, for sure.
So,
Yeah, and that's a very good point. The first project, in my mind, like over the last 3 years, I always combined it together into one thing because I thought it would be cost savings.
Yes.
But it could technically be phased, and we could concentrate on one element of it, so.
okay. I would like to move 3 up and then add the 8,000 for the ducts, because to me, that's important.
And currently, that's number 7, correct, on the
The new flooring
new flooring?
is what seems to be
I
there.
Yeah,
believe so. I don't
400.
have that list in front of me, I'm
And
sorry.
then add 8,000,
8,000 for the ducts.
And we probably would want to double check with
The cost.
Abraham about that,
Yeah.
but that was from about a year ago. I heard it
Okay,
was about
so
8,000.
3% to the 8,000 for cost of living. So that way, we are ensured that all of our artwork is happy. Thank you.
any other questions? All right, I will entertain motion.
Real quick. Would you rather, of course, yeah, I would rather go the WPA era stage second and then the modernization third due to the fact of the cost. Because we're looking at skimping.
I totally understand.
Okay. Yes. Does Ms. Angela have anything? Miss Angela, Angel?
Yeah,
do you
yes,
have-
yes, yes, I love the idea of the flooring, because I think it's some of the places are really bad. So I agree with that being up at the top. I love the idea of the stage and being able to have another place that maybe they can rent out or make some money out of. So the idea of that stage is a good idea. And I don't remember what the third one was, the store, moving the store?
It was a modernization of the museum, which is interaction with the children and the store being moved completely up to the front in a whole new,
I love, 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 love that idea, and that virtual stuff thing that they were talking about. And as we look into more, they're having to make more money and use it, all those things, or could be things that could be, allow them to make some more money, for sure. So I like those three.
okay.
But right now, we're just going to have two for the,
You don't want all three?
no, we're just trying to narrow down to
I
two.
tried.
I know, I like it, I do, but I just,
Yeah.
we're trying to get it down to two.
Okay, and again, my
for each.
reason for putting it on the list was just to kind of clear the air about it, because it's been out there for the last year or two, and I do think it's a real good project for us to do, but I understand if it was put on hold for a couple of years or
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
My appreciation is, do we still have the curtain for the stage?
We do
'Cause-
not, as I understand, it was lost in a flood in
Oh.
the 1950s.
'cause
Is it
man-
painted or is it sewn?
No, it's
It's sewn.
sewn.
It's-
The
it's
top picture
cultra
shows them
embroidered.
sewing it, the lady's
Okay,
sewing it.
I bet we can find some of the ladies at the quilting store to do it.
Yes, in fact, I've been in contact with Tay Nunn, who's with the Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque, and she did a whole project working with culture embroidery and bringing it back, so she's got contacts of who could do it for us.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion of the review and ranking of capital projects for the museum. Number 1 would be item 7. No, excuse me, number 1 would be a new item.
No, it's item 7, adding.
It would be,
Adding 8,000.
okay, yes, I'm sorry. Number 1 would be the new flooring, which would be item 7, plus $8,000, 3% raise, sorry, that didn't come out right, 3% to the 8,000 for the duct for the museum, and then number 2 would be the museum, no, number 2 would be the WPA era stage.
Yeah, which is item number 9
Thank you.
Number
I couldn't
9,
find
that's
it.
correct.
on 17.
Thank you. Did that come out right?
That came out correct. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. It passes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next up will be Becky Hicks, Transit.
I get the hot seat now? You get the hot
Yes,
seat.
a hot seat.
Hello, my name is Becky Hicks. Most of you already know me. I'm the transit director. Do you hear me? It's probably just not close enough. Testing. Okay,
Yes.
you can hear me now. So on my list, we are mostly funded by the federal government, and so those top projects, all the way down to number 11, are already in my budget. So what I would like to talk about mostly is what some of those mean, and then also the things that I would like to add. The top one is a van. Every year we get a replacement of either 2 buses or a bus and a van. In the 21 budget, we were scheduled to get a van and a bus. So that top one is the van. The second one is to remove the tank that's in our driveway. It's an underground tank. We're going to be fined starting next year if we don't get that tank removed. Some of the next ones are kind of self-explanatory. We have large doors in the garage that need to be replaced. We have a door in our lobby that needs to be widened so that a wheelchair can go through it. We need a couple of air conditioners on the roof. We need a secondary access on the second floor. Currently, there's only one way to get out, and that is either through the stairs or the elevator on the I think that's the east side of the building. But if there were an active shooter or something, there would be no way for us to get out other than break through the windows and jump. So that's what that's for. And then, I don't know if you've ever been into the transit building, that fancy Zia light that's in the lobby, that is scheduled to be repaired, which we are currently already in the process of getting that one repaired. Can't wait to see it lit up. Our men's and women's restrooms downstairs that are for the public, those are scheduled to be renovated anyway. And then our driver's break room is going to be renovated, and the soffit outside of the building is going to be replaced. Those next two buses are the ones that have not arrived. They were delayed due to COVID, so we're not expecting to receive them until next year, but we already have an open purchase order for them. The cameras for security, we have a camera problem in the building. Some of those cameras are so old that you don't get a good video feed. And then we also have a camera problem in the buses. However, that 21,000 is for the building only. So one of the things that I would like to look into is what it would cost to replace the cameras that are in our buses currently. We have something called Angel Tracks, and that system is very outdated. You have to go into the bus, pull out a box, take the box apart, take out some other piece, plug it into a fancy connector, hook it into your computer, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then there's another one that they put on one of our newer buses that we don't even have the equipment to view the video feed, so they're ineffective right now. But when we got the GeoTab, which was the GPS tracking that's on our buses now, we have the ability to use their camera system, and it would all hook together into the same system. So we're going to start getting a quote for that. That's one of the projects I would like to get done this year. And the other project that I would like to get done this year is lighting, changing over our lighting in our building from what it is currently, which is the fluorescent bulbs. It's not the oldest style, but it is the newer of the fluorescent bulbs, but changing that over to the LED system. We've already had Excel Energy out to look at the building and look in the garage and see if we qualify for a rebate. They're working those figures up right now. We have cost estimates from J&G for the garage section. There's a north side and a south side, and that's around $30,000. We think that we might be able to take the Zia light that's listed on line 7 for $37,000. We're getting that fixed actually for $2,500. And so we're thinking that maybe DOT will swap and let us use some of that money for upgrading the lighting. So I don't have really good numbers right now, but my two top priorities are going to be the lighting in the garage and the building, and also the new cameras in the buses. And just for your information, on line 12 and 13, it says bus stops and signs, which are bus stop signs. We do not have 650 bus stops, and we don't have 650 signs. We have about 240 bus stops. I don't know if you've noticed, but we numbered them all. They have little green cow ear tags on them. We were trying to save as much money as we could since we're going to redesign the signs. We didn't figure it would be a good idea to spend a lot of money. So, but each bus stop has a sign. So what we're doing currently, and this will take a year to a year and a half, is we're collecting statistical data so that we know how many passengers we're picking up from each bus stop number, so that we'll have an idea of whether or not that bus stop is viable or if it needs to be removed or moved to a different location. We have an instance up north at the Taco Bell. Our bus stop is in a very hazardous location. At first it was fine, but now that they're building up in that area, they have Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, Classics. They're building that new restaurant where Bud's was. Now there's just too much traffic going in and out of those driveways, so it needs to move down south just slightly from where it is currently. So those are the types of information that we're collecting, the data that we're gathering right now, so that we have a better idea of where the bus stops should be. So the annual replacement plan was, I think, not to replace the bus stops themselves, but to put in covered bus stops and benches. The thing is, we only have 88 on Main Street and probably around 40 on Second Street. In the residential areas, we're not going to be able to put covered bus stops because it's literally on someone else's property. So you're only looking at maybe 120 or 130, maybe upwards of up to about 150 that we would need to cover. And we have a different idea for that. We're going to ask some businesses to sponsor some of those. So before we start asking the council for city funds to take care of that, we're going to get our plan together and determine where the bus stop should actually be, and then also how many dollars we can get from those businesses that have a stop very close to them that might be willing to put a cover or a bench or a combination. And I stand for any questions.
All right, so as I take it, your number one is your geo-tracking cameras, and your number two is lighting and for the lighting for the building and garage.
Can you swap those? I would like the lighting to be number one.
Lighting to be number one.
And the reason is because in the garage area, we only have maybe a third of the lights working currently. It's not a problem in the summer, but in the winter, it's going to be quite dark.
Okay, and currently we don't have quotes on that, right?
We don't have what?
Quotes on what it's going to.
I have quotes for the garage area, but not for the building.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and because typically, at this point, we're knowing what the project costs were going to be, but I'm okay with it. But I'm okay with
the
it.
lighting is most important in the garage area.
Right.
So that one's about $30,000.
Okay, the garage is 30,000. It's one of those though. We're going to definitely need it firmed up by July if it's going to.
Mr. Chair, that is correct, and we'll try to get that figure firmed up.
Yes, like I said, we had to wait for Excel to come, and also we're still waiting for J&G to send us one of their estimates.
Any questions from the committee?
Nope.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for the review and ranking of the transit. Number one would be lights in the garage and replacement of older lights throughout the building, and that cost will come by July or August when we move it up. Number two would be a geo-tracking camera system in every bus and the bus station. Am I correct?
No, the cameras in the station, you already have that on the list.
Okay.
It's something that DOT is going to help us pay for.
Okay, so
it's the bus cameras that need to get replaced.
Okay, so strictly just the geo-tracking bus cameras that need to be replaced for number two.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. It passes. Thank you, Ms. Hicks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, next will be Marcus Gallegos.
Mr. Chair, councilors, the first one would be on page 15 for recreation. My number one priority is, there's not an item number on it right now, but it's the middle one. It's the adult center facility improvements. We have several major improvements that need to be remedied that are kind of urgent, I feel. Room 27 remodel, that one it's a dilapidated building, room at this time. It actually has asbestos in the glue of the ceiling tiles that are falling down, so that needs to be properly remedied. We need to improve the security system of the adult center. We have to currently have a workaround just to set the alarm right now. Bathrooms have to be remodeled on the older side. They're not ADA compliant at this time. They're dilapidated, hard to move around. So a lot of different things in me there. Parking lot improvements, it's real tight to get in. Anybody who's driven in there has probably driven over the curb as you're coming in. You know, the sidewalks are cracking and moving, and they're not safe anymore. And we would also need window replacement. We have several windows that are the original windows that when they built the building many decades ago, and you know, they're cracked, they're easily accessed. We've had a couple of break-ins this last couple of months, and it's because of these older type of windows that they're able to access. And so we've had to remedy those and fix those, but you know, those are some major immediate needs that the adult center needs right now. So that's my number one priority. We have a estimated cost of $235,000 for that.
All right.
My I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's number one.
Yeah, number two would be the last, item number 7. It's the recreation center outdoor expansion, for the aquatics, park. I know that's been on the agenda, you know, on the thoughts of expanding the aquatics side, the outdoor pool, making it bigger and more accessible to, a lot more people throughout Roswell. And so that is my second one at $1.25 million.
What page is that on, please?
That's still on page 15.
I don't have a 7 on 15.
There's number 5 on
Thank you.
15.
Oh, it is? Did it get renumbered?
Okay, I'm sorry.
And then I have another list here. It's page 13 on the athletics side. My number one priority on that one is item number 1 for the Stella Grande ball fields design construction. We have received $850,000 already. If that didn't get called back, I'm not sure. But we still have a lot longer to go to make that a reality. So that's my number one priority, of still asking for money from the state for that. And my number 2 priority is the Cielo Grande installation of lights at the Cielo Grande Sports Complex for the soccer fields. That's been a need they've asked for years. It costs a little bit of money to put those in and for design and installation, and that's something I'd like to get off the ground. I stand for any
All right.
questions.
Do we have any questions? Mr. Arpesa?
On the ball fields,
Mm-hmm.
is that a necessity right now?
Necessity. That I know it's a high priority with our sports fields. That's been something that we worked on last year a lot, and coming up with the design and finishing out the master plan of Cielo Grande Park.
I guess my real question is it feasible that we are going to be able to raise $20 million?
That's up to you guys, really. I know we're asking the state for this money, you know, to come up with a portion of it. They gave us $850,000 last year. We'll see what the budget brings this year.
Because honestly, I don't see it being a feasible project. And so I wouldn't support the ball fields at this time.
It was widely supported last year, so I felt that I need to push it through again this year.
Sorry.
I just want to make a comment. So at this point, we have the design and how we're going to do it. That's what we, of course, the money's, it's not going to get clawed back, really? Anyway, I'm at the point now, since we've started the project, we've always consistently said we start projects and we don't finish them, and we start them and we don't finish them. We felt this would be good for our traveling ball teams to increase the size of this. I feel this, again, like you said, it needs to be pushed forward and moved on. We've already taken the first step, and we need to continue stepping and continuing on with this. I yield.
All right. One clarification, I noticed there's 2 lightings at Cielo Grande. Was it 5 or 6?
It's 6.
6, okay. The actual field's not the parking lot, right?
Yes.
My question If not number one, Mr. Opeso, what would you see here as a substitute? That's my, looking at it, that's what I was trying to see.
I would say the adult center, the improvement, I totally agree with Marcus on that one. That it needs
But
a
that's,
lot of-
but that's a different, that's on the,
That's different.
we're gonna do approve 1 and 2 on both pages.
And we can do those separate, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. No, I don't know, I just don't support the ball fields, I'll tell you that much.
You want me to make a motion, or are you good?
I'm good. You want to make a motion? Which one do you want?
I'm gonna do it the Recreation Center first, so. I'd like to make a motion of reviewing and ranking the capital projects for the Recreation Center. Number 1 would be the Adult Center facility improvements. Number 2 would be the Recreation Center outdoor expansion.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. So it passes. So number 1 is the adult center improvements. Number 2 is the outdoor expansion at the rec center. All right. Now, for the athletic side of it, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for review and ranking of capital projects for the athletic side of the project. Number 1 would be the Cielo Grande Ball Fields design and construction, the continuation of last year's money that was allotted. And number 2 would be the Cielo Grande installation of lights at Cielo Grande Sports Complex, which is mainly for our soccer teams. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second it. So any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
No.
Okay. We have 2-2.
Well,
I believe it still
Mr.
goes
Chair.
on.
It still goes
forward.
Okay.
I believe so too. It goes forward and it'll go into the mix for the
Yeah,
whole.
it happened in another
Yeah.
committee somewhere along the line.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next up will be Parks Jim Burris, who will cover multiple departments.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask your permission to also add animal control to your list. I don't know if everybody knows, but I volunteered to take over that department. Animal control.
I knew you had crazy written somewhere on your
Yeah,
forehead.
yeah, I volunteered. So,
And Mr. Chair, if I may, committee members, the animal control list is not in as part of the packet, but because that list was presented at public safety, and there was one project, I believe, that was ranked there for vehicles, but these are all projects unrelated to those, and as Jim mentioned, he does also oversee that, so that will be in addition to the list that he's going to be presenting, so those projects can be considered as well.
I have no objection. Any council? All right, then I go ahead.
all right, so this is going to be easy. Number 1, be new cameras like everybody else that wore out, and there's security type thing, inside, outside.
What number is it?
Yeah, I don't have any, it's not even on the sheet, so.
Not on the sheet? Okay.
I'm just making it up. Number
Okay,
1,
Thank you.
For which department?
animal control.
Oh, so you're.
Yeah, I'm going to go in alphabetical order, just to keep it straight in my head. Animal control cameras, number 1, be about 35 grand. And then number 2 would be about 15,000 for new caging systems. They're in dire need of making quarantine areas and security, so those are those 2 items.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Get a
Any
motion.
discussion? All right, I'll take a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for review and ranking of capital projects for animal control. Number one would be cameras in the building and outside of the buildings. And number two would be an estimated $15,000 for caging systems inside and outside, I bet. Okay.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay.
All opposed, same sign. It passes.
All right, thank you very much. Point of information there, we're working with the rescue groups, and we may have one that's going to donate some materials for outside runs, dog runs, and we'll do the labor.
Cool.
So we are trying to work with all the outside organizations to move forward. All right, I'd like to present the cemetery next. And on that one, things have changed up a little bit. Talking to Ruben, we're now at a point where we have to open a new block, sad to say, open a new block for ashes. If you remember in the past, we've asked to build columbariums, which the pass-through cost would have been about the same as if you buy a plot. It's about $700 for a niche. I'm not sure if that went up or not, but that didn't make the list. Now we are in definite need to open another block. So that's irrigation, roads, dirt, so on. So that's going to run about $25,000. So that would be number one. It is not on the list, so I suggest it be number 15. Number 15 would be to open new block for the cemetery, and we're asking for $25,000. All right. Number 5 would be our second suggestion, replace irrigation system. We need to punch a well, put in an irrigation system, and put it into a circle, so we have the same pressure all the way around. So our second choice would be number 5, new irrigation system. So those are our two requests for the cemetery.
My question on the number 15, a new block as in burial block or as?
Yeah, it's
okay.
That's
Not-
that whole section, where they have the roads, that's a block or a section.
Okay.
We put in the roads, we survey it, irrigation, trees, and then make sure that it doesn't have clay. We make sure what kind of materials are there. However, this block will probably be designated for ashes
Ashes only.
and, hopefully flat stones and so on. We have a block that had ashes is over by the well house, close to the veterans, and it's basically full. So we need to move again and specify this block for ashes. So that's what it's for.
And the opening and closing will cost the same for ashes versus,
Well, how it works is once you buy the plot, you can put a full casket and one set of ashes on that plot, right? And I'm sure two, all right, if you've already paid for that.
Yeah.
But our new customers, there's no place to sell. So we're going to open a whole block for ashes, and right now it's over 50% of our customers are going with ashes. The dynamics changed. We have engineering, I believe, for columbariums like the veterans, but that hasn't moved forward. That complex would be $380,000. It's on one of the numbers there. But priority-wise, I have to open a new block, and it's less money.
okay. But then the actual upkeep of that block is going to be the same as any other.
Yeah, it's the same. We're just gonna mow the grass.
Where a columbarium, the
Yeah,
cost
just-
is up front, but then.
Then I don't have to mess with it. Yeah,
Perpetual
just-
care doesn't cost us
Yeah,
anything.
wash it off and I'm good.
Okay.
So that was engineering out a need for chemicals and employees and all that. It would actually, if you did the numbers, eventually pay for itself if you did the columbariums. But right now, I gotta do something.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll take any motions.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, review and ranking of capital project for the cemetery. Number 1 would be item number 15, open a new block for ash burial only. And number 2 would be item number 5, and it'd be replace irrigation system, so a new irrigation system at the cemetery.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. It passes.
Didn't do animal control.
Did we not
Thank
do
you.
animal control?
We didn't pass it.
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
Didn't we?
Which one?
Did we do animal control at public safety?
No, Mr. Chair, Councilor Best, I believe at that time, animal control was the part of the police department. So in that list, there was only one item, which was about like vehicles, I believe, but I think these are all separate from
Okay.
those, so.
So do we want to do this real quick?
I thought we did just make a
I thought we
motion and
did.
we passed it.
But we already did animal
Did we
control.
already pass it?
Yes.
Oh, well,
Today.
hello.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stop
Thank you, by the
sucking on my
way.
lifesavers. Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to do golf now.
Sure.
That's easy, because there's only two. So, obviously, number one is number one, and number two would be number two.
Number one is number one, and number two is number two. Okay.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Okay, I'd like,
Well, and the question I have is, when we're talking about replacing, are we replacing it all with the iron, or just
No,
replacing it?
that-
Okay.
it was never finished. There isn't iron fencing around the entire golf course. So if you go down 8th Street, it's nasty, the fence. So it's kind of a security thing. So I just want to finish it.
And finish it down 8th Street with the iron fencing?
Yeah, whatever, like right in front of the pro shop, there's no iron fence, and around it, all the way down 8th Street, hook it up with the bird sanctuary. And just do the other half, make it all
are you
match.
going to repair what's there, needs to be painted?
Sure, yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Keep those ducks in? Sure.
Sure, keep the ducks in, yeah, and there are parts that we paint every once in a while, so.
Okay. All right.
You ready?
I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to review the ranking of capital projects for the golf course. Item number one will be number one, golf course fencing. Item number two will be number two, golf course maintenance facility and upgrades.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. It passes.
Okay.
All right. Now on to
Parks.
parks. Oh,
Parks
yeah, we
is
gotta
up
go back
next.
to parks.
Yeah, we got two more,
I was
parks
at
and zoo.
already. There's
Okay.
parks.
On this one, on parks, number 19 would be 1, and number 2 would be 2.
Two would be two.
Number 2.
Number 2 is number 2.
Okay. Does Mr. Edwards know about number one?
No, I don't discuss it. No, I don't tell anybody what I'm doing, you know that. It's number 1 is, the stiles, the pipe is the old black cast iron pipe.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I love
So,
it.
oh man, you touch it and it just keeps going and going and going. Part of that property is run off the well, and part of it, like 2 parts of it are run off of city water. All right, so the idea would be to replace it, put in a 2-wire system, right? And then we can actually run it off our computer, so when it rains, we can shut the water off. Things like that, so
When it rains.
when it rains, when and if it rains.
Once
there's things-
every 2 years, we
Yeah.
can shut off the water. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to review the ranking, excuse me, of capital projects for the parks. Number 1 is item number 19, Stiles Field Sports Complex improvements, which would mainly be the irrigation system and playground equipment, lighting. Number 2 would be item number 2, and that would be playground replacement and upgrade, new equipment per year. I assume that's through the whole city.
Yes, we like that wording. We just fix stuff wherever we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. I think Mr. Orpisa barely beat you there, Ms. Moore. All
have
right.
it.
You can have it, though. All right, we got you in. Okay, all in favor of Number 1 being the Stiles Field replacement of irrigation, and number 2 being playground equipment replacement. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. It passes. Now we get to go back to the zoo.
Now I'll get back to zoo. All right. With your permission, we'll do a little information first, make it very fast. It's okay, though.
All right, go for it.
I don't know if you've noticed, this new hat has a zoo logo on it, makes me look a whole lot better. Okay, this is new, so we're gonna offer.
You pull it down a little bit further, it'd
There we
look
go.
a
We're gonna
lot
offer
better.
that to everyone here pretty soon. We're just testing the brand, okay?
All right, good.
Okay, second thing, just for everybody's information, right now, I have to tell you how proud I am of the zoo staff, because they're doing additional work. I know that it's shut right now, but everybody's kicking it, we're putting trees in, redoing irrigation. However, some of the new things that are coming up, right now, we've done, so far in 2 weeks, 10 tours. So 2 weeks, 10 tours, and we're like at 3 birthday parties. All right, so you know, so just some background information there. Now, on this one here, we would like number 12 to be 1, elk exhibit fencing. And our second choice would be number 1 is 2.
Wait. You
Wait,
said
you
one
said
is
number 1 is
12.
12.
Oh, yeah, number 1, 12 is number 1. Okay, and then our second choice is number 1.
Okay, thank you.
It's kind of confusing, but yep. And if we get a third choice like everyone else, we'd like electricity on college, so.
Electricity on college?
Yeah, the thing, you know, because we're kind of torn, because the birthday party room has to do with, you know, a store, birthday party room, so on. You look at zoo infrastructure, install electricity on East College, and run it down for the exhibits. Then we run electricity to the night houses for the animals, and we actually see what we're doing. And we'd like to put some capybaras in there, and they need some heat in the winter, and then we also don't have to bust the ice out of the water, and you know what that is. It shreds your hands and then you bleed, or you put gloves, you know, either way, it's just not a good thing. So, really wasn't sure how to number that. You know, we have to look at our expectations on our finances in the future, so you'd want to fix the birthday party room, right? However, you're just talking about the zookeepers not dying in the winter, electricity would really be nice, that's number 14. So I'll leave it up to everyone's discretion there, okay? Just thought I'd throw it out there. All right. So if there's like a 2.5 or something, you know.
2.5?
Yeah, 2.5.
Do we do 2.5?
Let's just get us down to 2. We're gonna
Dang it.
have, I just think of that.
I feel your pain with the
I know
office.
those.
Coins in the air,
But you know
what I'm
what? They have nifty little solar
saying?
deals.
Yeah, solar.
They
yeah.
bubble. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, solar pumps, heaters, it's true, it works.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to review the ranking of the zoo. Our number 1 would be item number 12, Spring River Zoo Improvements, elk exhibit fencing. Our number 2 would be item number 1, remodel of the birthday party room so we can have some income.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. It passes. Cool.
Stand for questions if there are any.
How is the pond coming?
Pond's coming, actually had engineering go out there this week. And the streets department, you know, because I pull everybody together, right? And so we're getting a plan. We're going to meet Monday with the county. And
Awesome.
next step. So we're getting
I'm
there.
excited about that.
Me too. It's going to be deeper, bigger, different fish because it's deeper and it's cooler. So maybe
Yes.
some bass and some other things up in there instead of what you've had in the past.
Yeah. We still working with the New Mexico Game and Fish?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not
Perfect.
time yet. They're going to help us with like lily pads, things like that, shade for the
Wonderful.
animals, thing, you know, like in the past.
Awesome.
You know, because you need that too for the smaller fish kind of hang around the bank. So yeah, they're right there.
You're going to add some toads there so the RV park will get the aesthetic.
Yeah, we're going to work on some of that too.
Yeah.
Folks.
Can we go frog gigging? Frog legs are pretty good.
Yeah, I would do frog gigging, but not everybody knows what.
Thank you. you, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Mr.
All right,
Chair,
Thank you
if
very
I-
much.
If I may, we do have facilities. When we did the list, originally, we have under General Services, the Facilities Department. It was my mistake. It was a little bit of confusion because infrastructure is being overseen right now by Abraham Chaparro as well. He did present under infrastructure. I failed to move facilities under infrastructure, but he is here and he'd like to present to the General Services his items under facilities only. So he'll just present those. They're not in your packet because that list is not included in the, was not included in the packet, but he will present them, the two items.
Is that going to be allowed for the agenda and all that wonderful stuff for Sharon?
Well, it will be almost the same as what we did with animal control.
Okay.
Because-
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. How's it going? Before we get started with facilities, as you can see, we're kind of part of everybody's motion here. So in order to provide that service, we got to be more readily available, have a right facility to do that. So before I get started with my list, I did want to give a quick update on the Carpenter's Park, if that's okay.
That'll work.
What we're going to do is, starting in July, we're going to do a pre-construction meeting. I tasked Trent Moore to go ahead and take the lead on that. We're going to be meeting with Wade Construction and get a start date and start getting our stuff ordered. We won't be able to generate a PO until July regardless. So in July, we'll generate the PO, do the pre-construction meeting, and get that project underway. As you know, there is a balance left over about of $103,000. And at that time, we're going to be meeting with Jim and the Parks Department to see what kind of amenities they want to do to upgrade the park within the grants guidelines. So I just want to give you a quick update on that as well.
All right, appreciate it.
So on my facilities list, one of the first items we have, as you know, that we provide services citywide. So we're literally in every single department citywide. We do have a building that's going to become available to us. That's going to be at the solid waste landfill. It's the building that we currently use for recycling. So the intent of my wish list was to utilize that building, kind of modernize the building, to be able to provide the facility services adequately to the entire city on more of a modern level, I guess I would say. Right now, the facilities department is kind of working out of a very small shop. It's kind of looks like a tin can, if I'm not mistaken. And the trucks are crowded. We don't have the right equipment set up. Everything's kind of packed into a very small area. So that's kind of one of my first items, that item to refurbish or actually repurpose that building. The amount we're projecting is about $500,000. Number two, and I'll keep it short, the solids waste department in the restroom area, there was a slow leak for a lot of years that created a significant amount of mold that's currently encapsulated. It hasn't been disturbed, but we do have to do a significant remediation of the area. So that would be item number two at the tune of about $1.5 million. And I'm open to any kind of questions, comments.
Okay,
Ms.
so
Best.
let me get this straight. Number one is the recycling area
Repurpose a recycling building
building.
for facility maintenance. And like I stated, we provide services to the entire city and every single department.
Where are you located now? Over off Virginia?
Second and the truck route and second, right?
Okay, okay. And then the number two is the solid waste bathroom.
So there's two best restrooms that have drywall ceiling. The entire ceiling, that entire area is currently contaminated and affected the air quality in the area. But we did do some temperature readings, some air quality tests actually, and it's concentrated above the restrooms only. And as long as it's encapsulated, it's not being disturbed, there's no reason for concern, but we do need to remediate that as soon as possible.
So that's coming off and then new
Coming off,
HVAC?
as soon as we come it off, we're gonna find out what the extent of it is, and then there is a firewall there. We are proposing to do individual ACs for the minis, they call it mini splits for individual rooms. So we don't have to use the area above the ceiling as a plenum. So that plenum, when you push air into it, it kind of recirculate back into the building, so that's what we're trying to eliminate. So with the remodel, we want to hope to tackle that challenge and make it more energy efficient and better air quality for the staff that work there.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to review the ranking of capital projects for facility and maintenance. Number one, I hope I'm going to get this right. Number one is the solid waste recycling building will now be moved over and make a facility maintenance building. And then number two is the restrooms out at the solid waste need a new roof and HVAC systems.
Well, it'd be a mold remediation and a reconfiguration of the HVAC system.
Okay. And I'm sure you guys can put that in the correct
Yep.
wording.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a motion. Do I hear a second? Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Thank you. All right, so I think we've gone all the way through. So anybody on go-to meeting that has any public participation? All right.
No, Mr. Chair.
Then I see that we're adjourned at 6:30. Thanks, everybody, for their hard work.